competitors, they knew. Nobody believes that that day at Gordon Park was the first time that Chase Kaminsky or Jacob Runyon cheated. It confirmed suspicions and it led to an outlet of rage. But we're here in a court of law, and Chase Kaminsky and Jacob Runyon can only be prosecuted when we have evidence that we can bring in a court of law. And so the state of Ohio was brought these charges and charged the crimes that fit the facts and the evidence. And the plea of guilty that they entered in March reflects their conduct and holds them accountable for what they did in September of 2022. The cheating offense that they pled guilty to and the attempted theft offense that was ultimately dismissed, those would have been allied offenses for purposes of sentencing, and this court would have been able to only sentence them on one of those two counts. The state of Ohio chose the count of cheating. The possession of criminal tools was accounted for with the forfeiture of the Ranger boat, which is a six-figure boat, and as the defense attorneys mentioned, no small punishment in and of itself. However, the circumstances of them obtaining that boat, I imagine a lot of members of the fishing community question. And then finally, you see in the last snippet of that video, the walleye fillets that they used to stuff the fish to add weight. That is actually the crime in count 4 of the indictment for the wildlife parts that has the license suspension by not following the proper procedures with walleye that have certain laws that have to be followed. So that's count 4 of the indictment that led to the maximum 3-year license suspension that's allowed by law. If the state of Ohio could have insisted upon a lifetime suspension, perhaps it would have, but we're confined by the law on that. As Mr. Gentile mentioned, there's a lot of consequences that these individuals might suffer even above and beyond what this court's confined with sentencing. Nothing this court does is going to prevent private organizations or private clubs from ostracizing them, banning them, not allowing them into tournaments, and other collateral consequences that they'll suffer. The only last exhibits here that we have is with respect to the forfeiture of the boat. It wasn't just that was a boat that was won with improperly or fraudulently. The boat itself was an instrumentality. When the ODNR law enforcement officers executed a warrant and seized that boat and photographed that boat, they found a compartment on that boat that literally smelled fishy and was sort of customized to have a secret compartment that would have enabled these defendants to conceal whether it be fish that they caught the day before or the lead weights that would allow them to potentially pass a boat inspection.
You have photographs of that?
I do have photographs of that. And so this is the Ranger boat, and I'm going to direct everyone's attention to where this Ranger bucket is here. There's a metal faceplate, and typically the screws have silicone around it that make it waterproof. And when ODNR inspected that, they were able to tell that someone had removed that plate, enabling there to be a compartment to hide stuff behind there, and that it smelled particularly foul when they opened it up. So that's a sort of an orientation picture of where it's at. Here you see the faceplate where the bucket has been removed, and then they removed the faceplate here in the third picture, just to give the court a sense of how the boat was also an instrumentality of their cheating. I appreciate the court taking the time to hear from the state of Ohio about this case. I think now would be an appropriate time to have Mr. Fisher, if he chooses to make a statement, come on up. I've instructed him to state his name and spell his name for the record.
Sure, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Jason Fisher. You spell my last name Fischer.
What would you like for me to know, Mr. Fisher?
Your Honor, I just wanted to mention a couple things. First of all, I wanted to thank you and the prosecution and the Division of Wildlife for handling this matter seriously. it means a lot to us, and not that you wouldn't, but at the end of the day, it is complaint generated by fishing. So we appreciate you guys taking the time to investigate properly. I run the Lake Erie Walleye Trail and the Walleye Fall Brawl. I've done that since about 2019. I've run tournaments, and in that time, I've run approximately 19 events. And I can list them all out, but I've been instructed to be brief here. The defendants in this case have won 9 of those events and 11 top finishes in total. So over 50% of my events they've done well in. And I read a statistic somewhere that somebody who steals or is a thief gets caught approximately 1 out of every 48 times. I think it's been mentioned before by the prosecution that this may have not been the first time. Also, the fishermen and the anglers believed that. They believed that in their heart. They believed that in their mind. And not only what they were able to accomplish and the money that they were able to accrue by winning these events, it's not probable, and it's definitely not even possible.
I could ask you just a quick question before you move on. So you mentioned that you've supervised or
Sure.
These 19 events, I think you said, or is it 19 years or 19 events?
19 events. We run several of them each year. Yeah.
Have there been, other than these gentlemen, have there been any other multiple event winners? And if so, how many have those individuals won?
So that was my next thing I was going to say, Your Honor. The next closest person to winning events is 2.
That person had won 2.
Had won 2 events.
Gotcha. Okay.
So in addition to my events, there are others.
Sure.
There are other people run other events, and there's been victories there. I also know that there's been several other events that these 2 have been violated for rules infractions and or polygraph tests. So there was always some form of smoke behind these 2. However, I treated them as my friends. I worked on their boats. I talked to them. I called them. I defended them many times against my own friends. And if there were friends sitting here today, they would say that I retaliated verbally against them by defending these guys. There was never any real solid evidence until September 29th when, quite frankly, the fish that they weighed didn't pass the eye test, and I knew in my gut that I needed to do something, so I did, and you just got to watch what all transpired. It's not, my proudest moment, and probably not a lot of my other guys. However, what you saw is emotion. These guys have families. They have jobs. They do things, and they follow this passion, the sport of fishing, because it's what they love to do, and they take that time away from other aspects of their life. They miss birthdays and holidays because if we get delayed, we may have to go, on another day. So they rearrange their schedule. They financially pay for hotels and gas and you name it. These guys are out to try and pursue this thing, which is competition, which we all have done since we were little kids. We always want to win or be the best, and you grow up playing sports, and that's why these guys do this. And it brings so much to the community, specifically here in Cleveland. Gas stations, restaurants, hotels, the metro parks themselves. We all pay $5 just to launch there. I can speak with 100% certainty that these fishermen and these anglers generate revenue for the city of Cleveland and the metro parks, which we're no longer welcome at because of this incident. This year we lost our permits basically because they made the permits so expensive we can't get them. We were to host probably 150 boat field here this year, and we had to move events because Cleveland Metro Parks didn't want the drama that you just saw. That drama is because of emotion as to what happened because of these 2 guys. I'll end with this. I heard the defense talk about some negative publicity. I'll touch on the negative publicity that they put on other people when they were disqualified from the Fall Brawl. They attacked the operator of the Fall Brawl, Frank Murphy. The Ohio Walleye Federation, when one of them was disqualified for a simple rules violation, they attacked that organization. I actually started tournament directing because that organization wouldn't hold what's called the Vic Sports Center Open. So they came to me, hey, will you run this tournament for us? Because one of the defendants got disqualified, and they attacked them so much they said, we're just not going to do it. We don't want to do it. So the last thing that I want to say is, again, reiterate, thank you for taking this seriously, but also consider the time that these anglers and these guys spend away from their family, and that time to shine when they may come up with a win or a top finish. These people bring their children up on stage. They love this stuff. And those 9 instances where these defendants may have generated wins, I guess we'll never know if it was honest or not. But obviously they owned up to this one, so we'll never know about the other ones. Thank you, Your Honor.
So if I may ask, was that you on the video who cut open the fish?
It was.
Was it you also who said, hey, look, you just need to leave, and everybody leave him alone?
It was.
Well, thank you for that, because just watching that, I could see, right, envision, a mob mentality, but I appreciate your, doesn't sound right to say your maturity, but your intellect to say, hey, look, everybody would stay calm, and let's handle it the right way. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Rogalski?
Nothing further I'm asking to state, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Kaminsky, anything on your own behalf, sir, you'd like for me to know? You don't have to, but it's up to you, sir.
I just want to apologize to you, Your Honor. I want to apologize to my family, my friends, the fishing community. I feel embarrassed, super embarrassed. It was that bad action that we made. It's one I'm going to have to live with the rest of my life. One of my kids are probably going to end up seeing growing up that really hurts. I wish I could take it back. I wish I could go back to September 30th and redo things, but I can't. And I just want to apologize to everyone. My mother is my biggest fan. She's been there behind me my whole life. Without her, I wouldn't be nothing. And I know she's behind me, standing behind me, but I know she's upset with me. And that hurts the most too. I apologize to Jason Fisher. Me and him was pretty good friends, I can say. He took care of us. We had a lot of people talking down, and he did stand behind us. I just want to apologize to everyone. It's a bad situation, and it's something I wish I could say didn't happen, but I can't, Your Honor. I'm better than that. Definitely better than that. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Runyon, anything you'd like for me to know on your behalf?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. I too would like to apologize to Jason Fisher and Luke, all the other anglers, everyone who's affected by this. Again, like Jason said, this is embarrassing, ashamed, most ignorant decision I've ever made in my life. I apologize to my family as well. They were always rooting for me. And I'm sorry to everybody affected. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Gentlemen, growing up by my house was a small pond that, my dad used to take me there fishing. And I still drive past that pond occasionally and smile thinking about that. And sort of in a full moment circle, last year I had the opportunity to take him fishing up in Port Clinton, did a walleye charter. And to me, that's what fishing is all about. Those moments, those memories, those traditions. I've never fished in a tournament before, but watching the captain that we did last year, I think I can appreciate the individual skills that is required to, to find the fish, right? To get one on the line, whether your lure that you use, actually get it in the boat. It's not that easy. You guys too have skills, but like so many other common criminals who come before me, chose to use those skills in a nefarious way. The ancient Greek writer Sophocles wrote, "I would prefer to even fail with honor than to win by cheating." And really, at the end of the day, you're convicted felons and cheaters. After considering the purposes and principles set forth in sentencing, we'll find that you are amenable to community control sanctions. And for count one, would be put on Group B supervision for both of you. I'm going to impose a $2,500 fine, however, and court costs and supervision fees. I will suspend half of that fine, fees, and costs, provided that you guys make a one-half charitable contribution to one of the 501c3 charitable organizations that focus on, fishing and children. There's Cast for Kids Foundation, Kids Fishing Foundation, Fish for Kids Charity Foundation, or the Ike Foundation. Any one or other of a foundation, a legitimate 501c3 organization that deals with children and fishing. I will forfeit your license for the mandatory 3-year maximum. On count 4, I give you a 30-day jail sentence, which I'll suspend. One of the criteria that I am to consider in every felony sentencing, one of the big issues is always remorse, which I do genuinely believe that you gentlemen are remorseful. I thought I read that in your letters to me, as I've indicated to you, and I do believe that. But there is a consideration for deterrence, which I think is also an equally important consideration. And so while I will give you each a community control sanction, I'm going to start you off with a 10-day jail sentence. So my deputies are in the courtroom, Mr. Brown. Anyways, we'll start you off with a 10-day jail sentence, after which, upon your release, you report to probation, begin your supervision. I don't recall where you gentlemen reside, and so if there's a need for courtesy supervision, we will certainly authorize that. Anything else, Mr. Rogalski?
I want to make sure that we get on the record in the journal entry the forfeiture of the boat to the Division of Wildlife.
And the trailer.
And the trailer.
Right. Gentlemen, you take this man into custody for a 10-day jail sentence. Anything else, Mr. Gentili?
Judge, was there a length of the probationary term?
It's a Group B, which is for a year and a half. If they violate, they're looking at a 12-month prison sentence on count 1 and give them the credit for service on count 4. Anything else, Mr. Spellacy?
No, Judge, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. We'll be in recess.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All rise. Court is now in recess.